Welcome back. You sent us questions via email, Twitter, Facebook, and more, so it's time to answer a few. @I'mGalactus asks, do you think a VR version of classic platformers like Crash Bandicoot would ever make sense? I mean, maybe someday, but I don't think anytime soon. I mean, certainly not this year, not in 5 years, and I don't even think in 10 years. It's going to take a lot of mastery on the development side of things, the mastery of the platform, to understand what games work best on it and how to make the player feel engaged in all of that. Maybe you have a kind of runner-like game where it's kind of on rails and you just kind of jump at certain times. Maybe like, the crash scene. Maybe something like that is possible, but a full game experience where you have the 3D motion that the player would have to move in and then jumping at certain times and at what velocity, how high to jump. I think that's asking a lot, and developers have to kind of get a sense of how to develop games for the platform first before expanding on that. Because not only is it going to be taxing on the development side of things, the player is going to have to do all of those things too. Though maybe you could have a controller in your hand to create the running sensation, but then there's a disconnect there. Is that really then virtual reality, or is that just playing games with the visor on? So I think developers need to understand the platform first, and then maybe we see those games significantly down the line, but platformers, not the first games I'd go to for VR. @TheDesertOnFire asks, what are your thoughts on game difficulty, both fair and artificial? Game difficulty is a good thing, of course, but I think it's more important to have game difficulty options. Yes, you have some games like the Dark Souls games, which they sell predominantly based on the fact that they are exceedingly hard, and yeah, that's important to have those examples. But to have the options, the range of the spectrum from the very difficult, I mean, goodness, one of the Call of Duty games, to have it be realistic and that like basically one shot and you're down. Yeah, have that for players who want to do that, who play games because of the challenge and the difficulty, to have that sense of accomplishment of beating a game and beating a boss and things like that. If you play games for that reason, great, absolutely do that. But to have the other end of the spectrum for new players to games and for people like me who, really are becoming adults, have, less time to play games, play games for like the narrative experience really and the general mechanics of the game, but not the challenge. I play games on easier difficulty, and yeah, you can say noob, whatever, and because you're not in that position, you don't understand the perspective. So I think to have games be for all players and have options in games, options are always a good thing. Giving gamers choices, always a good thing. You can certainly have some games, some series that pride themselves on that difficulty, because Dark Souls is fair when it's difficult. It's, giving you that choice of whether you want to continue the game. It's not totally cheap. You have the trial and error that you learn from, and that's where the sense of accomplishment comes from. Because there's nothing less fun than an unfair game, an artificially difficult game. Yeah, it's not more difficult when you just throw more enemies at the player. That's not difficulty. So I think that's where the Dark Souls games get it just right. But for me, when I find something too difficult, I feel like it's wasting my time. And the little time I have to play games, that's where I'm generally going to move from or give up on a game. So to give players those options, I think that's what's most important. Have difficult games, but have the option for new players too. @MajorMoses asks, who is your favorite Super Smash Bros. Player? When I watch Super Smash Bros. Melee tournaments in particular, I find myself more often than not rooting for Armada. Though PPMD is a good one too, I like rooting for him. If you haven't read the ESPN article on their new esports page about PPMD, do give that a read, that's really good. And also I like pulling for Hungrybox as well. Though I'm not a member of Mango Nation. Sorry. We love receiving your questions, and we hope we get more. So send us a tweet, send us an email. You know how to reach us.